Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. If you haven't guessed by the title, we are going to be talking about Elisa Lam. We are going to be talking about creepy stuff. So if you guys don't like it, I think you should still watch because everybody loves creepy stuff, right? No, but yeah, so I know a lot of you are thinking, where's the food? What are you gonna eat today? I'm not gonna be doing any eating. I'm pretty much just gonna be talking about the story itself. It was a very interesting case, and it was, I think, a lot of the things that that surrounded it were a little bit weird. But if you kind of think about it, some of them might make a little bit of sense. So Elisa Lam, if you guys don't know the story or you guys are not familiar with the case at all, this happened back in 2013 where she was visiting from Canada. She came down to LA and she was staying at the Cecil Hotel. If you guys don't know the Cecil Hotel, it is located in Los Angeles. It's very near Skid Row. And the Cecil Hotel itself is it's very creepy just because of the history of it. A lot of weird things have happened. A lot of creepy guests have stayed there. Most notably, Richard Ramirez. If you guys don't know who Richard Ramirez is, he was a serial killer back in the 80s, and he stayed there from 1984 to 1985. So that in itself is already creepy. And then an Austrian serial killer by the name of Jack Unterweger. I hope I'm saying that right. I don't know if I am, but he stayed there in 1991 as well. And then a lot of people say that it was the last place that Elizabeth Short, aka the Black Dahlia, was. That was the last place that she was seen alive, according to a lot of people. And it is also the place of multiple suicide, reportings, or a lot of people, or a lot of suicides have happened over the years. People jump off and into the street and stuff, or from the roof of the building. And yeah, so over the course of the Cecil's history, there have been 15 suicides and deaths, and mysterious deaths combined. Oh, and then I almost forgot, there was another one. There's a 1964 homicide that happened at the Cecil that went unsolved. Somebody was found in their room and they were mutilated. They never ended up solving that, but that's just a little backstory on the Cecil. Very creepy. Don't think I would ever stay there. And it's just, yeah, you guys know that kind of stuff. I believe in ghosts and stuff like that, so I tend to stay away from places like that. So yeah, so again, if you guys aren't familiar with this story, it was about Elisa Lam. She was found dead in the in one of the water tanks of the Cecil Hotel on the roof. Guests of the hotel had been complaining about low water pressure, and that the water would be like a very weird color, and it would have like a very weird smell too. And so after multiple complaints, one of the employees tried to find out or figure out what the problem was. So he ended up going to the roof and he checked the water tanks, and in one of the water tanks, Elisa Lam was in there, and she was naked. And her clothes were floating next to her and stuff like that. So that's where the weird part begins. It's a lot of people originally thought that it was a suicide, but it was just a little bit weird. Anyways, she got to California, checked in January 26, 2013. She was spotted there. She was seen there by hotel employees January 31st. So up to January 31st, people still saw her there. At the start of February, she was supposed to check out. So when she was supposed to check out, she didn't call her parents, and her parents became worried. Her parents came to California. They filed a missing persons report, and they even went to the hotel and they searched. The police searched for her with search dogs and stuff, but they couldn't pick up her scent. So then the police on February 6th gave some details about Elisa Lam and that she was missing, and they were trying to find her and everything like that. The next day, February 7th, the LAPD had a press conference and actually said, hey, you know what, she's actually missing, and we need to we need to do something to find her and everything like that. On February 14th, If you guys know about the case, I'm sure you guys have seen the footage, the elevator footage, the surveillance video of Elisa Lam in the elevator. And the LAPD released this video, and it just kind of blew this whole thing. Like, it just made it like so much bigger than it already was. So it got a lot of public attention, and a lot of people were like, you know, it, like, this story like became really big. And once this video came out, once the surveillance footage came out, it just kind of elevated that, just because of, if you haven't seen the video, she acts very weird in the video. It's a 4-minute video. She acts very weird. She acts very strange. She, at some point during the video, she acts like she's trying to get away from somebody. So she like pokes her head out, and like she comes back in, and then she like kind of, you know, goes toward one corner of the elevator where all the floor buttons are, and she's kind of like, you know, pressing her body up against the elevator, like trying to avoid somebody. And then she comes out again, like she's comes to the center of the elevator, pokes her head out, and, you know, tries to see, I guess, trying to see if somebody was there. And then she starts doing like these hand gestures, and it kind of seems like she's talking to somebody. And then after that, it just pretty much, she kind of goes out of frame, and it just cuts to the door closing. And so people were just like, well, that's a little weird. And then that's when all these theories started coming out of like, oh, you know, maybe somebody was after her, maybe, you know, somebody kidnapped her, maybe like, and then it even went as far as to like people saying like, oh, maybe it was a ghost, maybe like she got possessed or something like that. And it got to, you know, it got to that point. But when that came out and everybody saw that she was acting a little bit strange, that's when people were like even more like, oh, you know, like people got even more concerned than they already were. And then on February 19th, after multiple complaints of the water, like I had mentioned earlier, and you know, the low water pressure and the funky smell and the coloring being off, an employee went to go check the water tanks to see what the problem was, and Elisa Lam's body was found, or he found a body in the water tank, and then it was later identified to be Elisa Lam's. They did an autopsy, and they didn't find anything. They didn't find any signs of sexual assault. They didn't find any signs of physical assault. Nothing. So like, she wasn't beaten, she wasn't raped, you know, she wasn't strangled, like nothing of that sort. And so at the end, it was ruled an accidental drowning. She suffered from bipolar disorder, and so they said, hey, this was an accidental drowning, and her bipolar disorder had something to do with it, or that was a big part of, you know, what happened. And so everybody has their theories about what happened. And so basically, some people say that, you know, maybe she was running away from somebody, maybe somebody like was coming after her, and that's why she acted so weird in the elevator. And then other group of people say that maybe she was on drugs, and she was on 5 medications to treat her bipolar disorder. And I know one of them in some cases causes like hallucinations and stuff like that. So a lot of people say, oh, well, maybe it was that, and she kind of had like a manic episode, and she started hallucinating, and you know, ended up finding her way to the water tank at the end. And you know, that was that. You know, a lot of people, there are a lot like that group of people that say, oh, this had to do with ghosts, and it was like something demonic or something possessed her. A lot of people say it was like the ghost of Richard Ramirez that was like coming after her or something like that. But I don't think in this case it was anything paranormal. I do think it's more possible that, like, you know, maybe because of her you know, mental health issues and her mental health like history and stuff like that, like maybe she had like an episode where, you know, she did think somebody was coming after her, and you know, ended up finding her way up to the water tank and accidentally drowned. But then a lot of people say, oh, well, how did she make it to the water tank? How did she get to the roof? How did she, like, you know, find her way into the water tank and close the lid and stuff like that? So there were, I mean, I'm sure there still are ways to get to the top, to the roof, there are 3 fire escapes, and then there are 2 doors, of which it's 1 or 2 doors that you can exit, but when you go through the emergency like door to get to the roof, an alarm is supposed to go off, and they said that no alarm went off that day, so nobody heard anything. But you could go out through a window or through some windows and use the fire escape, and make your way to the roof. And then once you're on the roof, there is the water tanks are set up right here. You know, it's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then there's a little room, a utility room, and basically there are some steps that lead up to the door of that room, and then next to those steps there's a ladder on which you can get onto the roof of the utility room, and from there you could jump onto the water tanks. So it is possible that she made her way up, you know, by climbing the fire escape or whatever, and you know, got up there, and it was it could be done. You know, it wasn't like completely out of the picture. Also, her parents ended up suing the Cecil Hotel for a wrongful death. They filed a wrongful death suit, saying that their alarms were not set up during January and February. So a lot of people say if she did exit through a door, the alarms were not going to go off because they weren't set up. And so maybe that's what happened as well. I don't think with this one, I really don't think that something supernatural or paranormal happened. I do think it was a little bit weird just because of where she ended up, and I think that's what people got. That's what got a lot of people thinking as well. Like, oh, you know, this is very weird. You know, she ended up in a tank. She ended up being naked. You know, and there were no signs of any abuse or any sexual abuse or anything like that. So that's when people started thinking like, wow, that's actually very weird. But she did have a history of, like I said, she did have bipolar disorder, and she did have a history with mental issues. So maybe, and then also she wasn't really taking her medication, so maybe that could have triggered it. You know, she did have an episode where she started hallucinating and actually did think somebody was going after her. Or, like a lot of people think, maybe she ended up meeting somebody and she was actually running away from somebody. And a lot of people think that because if you guys haven't seen the video, a lot of people have looked at the video and have kind of analyzed it, and they say that the timestamp, so the timestamp is at the very bottom of a video, kind of gives you, you know, it's a timestamp, so it lets you know how long, you know, it's 4 minutes or whatever, it's supposed to be 4 minutes, and it lets you know, like, you know, the time. So a lot of people took the video, the surveillance footage from the elevator, and they actually analyzed it and they saw that the video was actually slowed down. So somebody took the video and they kind of sped it up to like normal, and they also looked at the timestamp and they saw that the timestamp was like off, so it would jump like time pretty much. So it'd be like, let's say once it got to like the 1 minute mark, it would jump a little bit, and then once it got to the 2 minute mark, it would jump a couple seconds, and then literally 5 seconds after that it jumped to 3 minutes. So overall there's about a minute, like a minute long of footage that's missing. It's about 53 to 54 seconds of footage that's missing. So a lot of people say, why was this tampered with? Why was it messed with? And a lot of people think that it wasn't the cops that messed with it, but it was somebody maybe at the Cecil Hotel, maybe somebody before they gave it to the cops, they messed with it or something like that. And so there are a bunch of theories there saying that, oh, maybe somebody at the hotel murdered, you know, Elisa Lam, and they messed with the footage. And if you do actually look at the video, towards the end of it, you'll see that instead of the elevator door, because at one point when she gets out of the frame and you can't see her anymore, it just cuts to the elevator door closing instead of like gradually, you know, like the door showing up. So it's like Elisa Lam, she's out of the frame, and then obviously the elevator door would gradually show up, right? But instead of that, Elisa Lam's out of the frame, and then the door is just like that. So it doesn't gradually show, it just kind of like pops like almost a quarter of the way like out. And so yeah, that led a lot of people to believe that maybe somebody tampered with the surveillance footage before it was given to the cops, and maybe it was somebody with the access of you know, with the access to the video. So obviously it would have been somebody from the hotel, but you know, they're just theories. Nobody really knows for sure. At the end of the day, they ended up ruling it an accidental drowning, and her bipolar disorder had, you know, was an attributing factor to that. You know, I think there are a lot of possibilities, you know. I don't think, like I said, I will rule the paranormal one out. I just don't think that that's a possibility. I don't think she was possessed or anything like that. Like, I just truly do not believe that that's one option that happened. But maybe, you know, somebody, or maybe it was a combination of both things, you know. Some people say that she had like a manic episode and her mental issues made her hallucinate and made her think somebody was after her. But then again, maybe it was a combination of two things. Like maybe it was like her mental health issues coming up, and like maybe she did think somebody was after her, but maybe somebody was actually after her, and the fact that, you know, she was bipolar and she had this disorder, and, you know, kind of maybe elevated that to like a bigger level, and maybe somebody was actually after her, and that person, you know, man or woman, took advantage of the situation and kind of, you know, led her to the roof and to that point to like jump in and stuff. Who knows? It is very sad, just because, you know, it is a human being. It's very sad. Obviously that's never a good thing. So every time I look at the footage, it does kind of creep me out. I saw the surveillance footage last night, and I don't know, I always get really uneasy, and it's just really creepy, just because, you know, that was the last time that like something, or like a camera or like a surveillance footage and stuff, actually caught her alive, and just the way that she was acting was very strange. But the video that was released and the video that you guys find, if you do see it, pretty much is super slowed down. So her movements, and like the movements that you see in the video, are actually way faster than that. Either way though, it's very strange, like the way that she acted and everything. I don't think that I would ever want to go to the Cecil Hotel. Like, I would definitely never stay the night there, but who knows, maybe to see how it is and stuff, like I'll go ahead and check it out. But yeah, no, that hotel keeps getting creepier and creepier over the years. Like, it keeps getting, like I said, murders stay there, serial killers stay there, and then you have the suicides, and then you have the unsolved murder, and now you have this incident, which was ruled an accidental drowning, but a lot of people still think it's a murder case. I don't think it's ever going to be solved, and I don't know, I just think it's a strange case. But yeah, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you guys think happened, or if you have any thoughts about it. If you guys know what I'm talking about, and you guys have seen the footage, what do you think about it as well? It's just creepy. It's just very creepy overall. But like I said, if at the end of the day it did have to do with her, the cause of all this being that it was because of her disorder, like her bipolar disorder and stuff like that, that is actually very sad. And the fact that, like I mentioned earlier, she was acting very strange to the point where she had to get relocated to a different room. So being by herself might have boosted that. like, you know, being isolated by herself might have triggered that a little bit more, you know, instead of being surrounded by people who might be able to help. So if that was the case, that's actually very sad. And I don't know, like I said, it's just a very sad story because, you know, this girl was very young, and it wasn't like I said, she's a human being and everything, so it's very, very, like, it's sad, it's dark. I think the fact that it happened at a location like the Cecil Hotel makes it even creepier, just because the history behind it, and this is just adding another thing to it. And it's just, like I said, it's very strange that it happened at the Cecil, just because of the history behind it, you know. So let me know what you guys think about this case. What are your thoughts about it? What are your theories, if you have any? That is going to be it for today, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for all the love and support as always. If you guys enjoyed this kind of video, please go ahead and let me know. I will, and if you guys do enjoy this, or did enjoy this kind of video, I will definitely be doing more, and you know, talking about more creepy stuff, more serial killers and all that kind of stuff. Go ahead and comment, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And go ahead and let me know what other things you want me to talk about. And I will see you again very soon in the next video. Bye, guys.